very compassionate man.
The audience to this show knows her so well, but I mean, a lot of times they saw Barbara as harsh. Barbara very strongly opinionated, very conservative, even maybe more conservative than you, Ted.
I don't know about that, but I think that's it's interesting that you use that word opinionated, because Barbara mentioned once that she thought she was opinionated, and I said, Barbara, you're not opinionated, you just have opinions. But she said she thought it was a compliment to be opinionated. She thought that, and I mean that in a gentle way, that she thought that she wanted to be involved. She wanted to have opinions. She wanted to know what was going on. She turned down a number of offers to be with prestigious law firms to come to Washington because she wanted to be involved in politics and political life. And she felt that people should express their opinions. Barbara was a very, very gentle person, but she was not bashful about expressing her point of view.
One would imagine if she were on and here tonight, she would be calling for immediate retaliation, a slam dunk.
I don't know.
You don't?
What those of us, and I think that other people who had loved ones that were devastated by this event, I don't think we're thinking about revenge or thinking about that sort of thing. I think that we expect the government will do what it can to bring those things about. But my feeling is of love for my wife Barbara, and the feelings that and for my family, and for all of the other people.
A couple of other things. You told us on the phone, and I think it was printed in the press, she never identified what the nationality was or what the hijackers were like, right?
No, she did not, and we just didn't, that didn't come up.
That wonderful smile. Boy, she changed the room, didn't she?
Yes, she could light up a room, and we did everything together, and I could never get over the fact if we were sitting at a dinner table together with 6 or 7 people at these banquets that we go to in Washington, that the entire table would be transfixed by Barbara, the conversation that Barbara would somehow initiate and light up the room, and everything would become animated and spirited and in goodwill. I mean that in the best possible way, and people would be having fun. Being around Barbara was to have fun.
You told me about one thing last night, and which just tore Sean and my heart out. When you finally went to bed on Tuesday night, the end of this harrowing day, you find a note.
Yes.
What was it?
I left the home a little before 6, as I said, and Barbara left not long thereafter to catch the plane. And it was my birthday, and when I finally went to bed, it was after 1 o'clock. Now it was September 12th. There was a note that Barbara had written to me on the pillow, saying, "I love you. When you read this, I will be thinking of you, and I will be back Friday." It were a few more words than that, but I just. That was extraordinarily special, and very much like Barbara, and I'm grateful that she did that.
Thank you, Ted. Our hearts are with you.
Thank you, Larry.
Ted Olson, Solicitor General of the United States. I did that earlier for broadcast tonight. There will be a memorial service for Barbara Olson tomorrow morning. For those of you in the area, it'll be held at the Cathedral of St. Thomas More. That's in Arlington, Virginia. And reminding you, still to come tonight is Dr. Gordon B. Hinckley, President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He might be able to help Ted, maybe millions of others, get through this. Right now, let's go to Washington, where we're joined by Colonel Roy Wallace of the United States Army. He's Office of Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel, served in the military 24 years, stationed at the Pentagon, and Lieutenant Colonel Ted Anderson of the United States Army, working in Army Congressional Liaison. He's been in service for 19 years and commanded troops in the Persian Gulf. So you realize that the previous guest's wife died at the building that housed these men. Colonel Wallace, what were you doing at the time American Airline Flight 77 hit your building?
Well, sir, I was having a conference call in my office, which was in the wedge that now you see collapsed on all the TVs. When we heard an earth-shattering boom, followed by a shock wave which tore the ceiling apart above us. bringing down the tiles and the aluminum that held it together, and the light fixtures swinging from the wires that were holding them up, and directly behind me the glass being blown out into a courtyard between the C and the B rings of the Pentagon.
Did you have any idea what it was?
No, at that time we thought it was a bomb or some other type of explosion.
Lieutenant Anderson, where were you?
Larry, I was in my office actually talking to my wife on the telephone and her students, her 6th grade students in North Carolina.
Did you already know about the crash at the Twin Towers?
She actually called me, Larry, and she wanted information. She was having a civics type of class with her students, and they wanted information about the bombing in New York and wanted to know what I thought about it.
Boy, now what happens? When it hit, what happened? And what did you do?
When the bomb went off, I knew it.
You thought it was a bomb.
When the explosion occurred, I thought it was a bomb inside the building, and I hung up. I said, "There's been a bombing. I've got to go." I hung up the phone and I screamed for everybody in the office to get out. And I went out the back end of the office, Larry, and into the hallway, and people were starting to come out of their offices, kind of in shock, not knowing what had occurred. And I just started screaming at the top of my lungs, "Everybody out of the building, out of the building." And at that time, I went out an emergency exit. And Larry, as soon as I came out the exit, I looked to my left and I saw nothing but aircraft debris, and I knew exactly what had happened at that point.
Is it true that you saw someone running by you on fire?
Larry, myself and 2 other folks, and one was a non-commissioned officer and another one was a civilian, and I couldn't tell you their names, but we ran around the corner and directly to the fire itself, and as we got to the fire, were able to negotiate entry into the structure itself, and through the process of getting a couple people out, Larry, I fell onto the floor, and in so doing, picked myself up, and I saw this brilliant glow go by me to try and hit a window, and it was an individual ablaze.
Running by you?
Who ran by me. The individual that was with me, we both jumped on this individual and smothered the flames, and then we had to carry him out. The lady that we had carried out previous to that, was conscious, but was very difficult to get out of the building. But this gentleman was... Say again?
Did he live?
They both lived, Larry. As a matter of fact, the individual that was burned so terribly, and this is hard for me to even live with tonight, was completely conscious and screaming to me at the top of his lungs, "Get back into the corridor. There are more people behind me. You need to get into the corridor." And that's when we tried to get back in the structure, Larry, but the firemen pulled us out.
He was saying that while burned over his body?
He was completely burned over the front part of his body, but he had enough adrenaline flowing in him that he knew his colleagues were behind him.
And Colonel Wallace, what had happened with you? What did you do?
As soon as the blast wave went by us, I looked towards the outer part of the Pentagon and saw a wave of black smoke curling our way. So I quickly yelled to my people to get the heck out of the building. And then after I had cleared them out of the cubicle farm that we lived in the personnel office, I went back in to see if there was anybody else. And we got down on the floor and we called to people, telling them to come to the sound of our voice if they could hear us. And then when the smoke got too bad, we went out into the 4th corridor. And when I looked to the right, there was an individual that had stumbled down the corridor, and he was coming in and out of consciousness. And he had been burned, 3rd-degree burns on his arms and his head. Part of his uniform was matted to him because we have polyester type pants. We picked him up and started towards the middle of the Pentagon, working our way through the smoke Some of the doors had jammed, so we had to divert through other offices to get to the middle of the Pentagon, to where there was triage for him.
Gentlemen, obviously there's no way any of your training could have prepared you for this and to see the heroics. Do you expect, as military men, finally, do you expect, Lieutenant Anderson, retaliation soon in some form?
Well, Larry, quite honestly, I don't know. I can only tell you that the Secretary of Defense has promised that some sort of retaliation most likely is in the offing, but that's not up to us to decide. We're on the execution end of the phase, and we will do exactly what the National Command Authority directs.
Colonel Wallace, do you expect something?
In the military, we have complete faith in the President and the Secretary of Defense and Secretary White of the Army that they're going to do the right thing. And when called upon, we'll respond under their direction.
We have no doubt of that. Colonel Roy Wallace, Lieutenant Colonel Ted Anderson, thank you both. Before we meet two survivors in New York from the tower, and then Dr. Hinckley and some words of wisdom. Dr. Hinckley is president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. First, here's a moment with President Bush this morning at the National Cathedral.
War has been waged against us by stealth and deceit and murder. This nation is peaceful, but fierce when stirred to anger. This conflict was begun on the timing and terms of others. It will end in a way and at an hour of our choosing.
George Bush this morning. I've been saying Dr. Hinckley. It is President Gordon B. Hinckley of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he'll be with us in a couple of moments. And we'll spend those moments in our New York bureau with Valerie Nisi O'Neill, who worked on the 44th floor of the World Trade Center, the South Tower. That was the second tower hit, the first to crumble. Independent contractor working as a TV producer for Morgan Stanley. And Evelyn Kong. Evelyn is Valerie's colleague and friend. She was on the stairwell in the upper 20s of the building. What, Valerie, do you do as a TV producer for a stock brokerage firm?
We produce the internal programming for our business television network, Morgan Stanley.
Gotcha. Where were you when this happened?
We were in our smaller studio preparing for a shoot that was going to begin at 9 o'clock, and we heard a really loud bang. There was a window right by us, so we looked outside and we saw parts of one start falling off the building, and we saw a lot of debris falling, so everyone immediately said to run, and we looked for the nearest exit to get out.
What did you think?
We were pretty scared. We didn't know what it was. Of course, the immediate thing that came to mind was maybe it was a bomb. Someone thought it was a plane. So everyone grabbed their belongings really quickly and just started running out.
And down the stairs?
Down the stairs. Actually, the first thought, which probably wasn't very smart, was to go to the elevator. We were on the sky lobby, so it goes right down to the first floor. Just as about the doors were going to close, the security guards told us to get out and head for the stairs. I was with some of my coworkers at that point, but with, I guess, the scrambling, we got separated, and within moments we were heading down the stairs on 44.
Was there panic, Valerie?
Initially, no, only because no one, I'm sure, imagined that it would be something as tragic as what was going to happen. We thought it was maybe, at the time we weren't sure, but it looked like it was contained in one, so everyone was helping each other, moving in an orderly fashion down. Some people were a little bit afraid, but others were calming them down, and we were getting down pretty quickly.
Evelyn, where were you?
I was, Valerie and I got separated, and we were in the 20s when the second plane hit. So it was.
You were in the stairwell when it hit?
Yes, we were already in around the 20s, down to the 20s when the.
And did you have any idea what that was?
Initially, I thought it was a helicopter or some sort of small plane that might have crashed into the building, or perhaps even an explosion upstairs. But we had no idea that it was a plane that size or a commercial airline.
And what did you do? Just start heading down?
I was with Valerie. We both did a not-so-smart thing, which was go for the elevator, and then we got right back out, and then we lost each other. and we headed down the stairs as quickly and as orderly as we could.
Now, there were reports